We speak. Our words. We listen.
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 Hello everybody and welcome to Autistic Radio. For those of you who are regulars here for the 555, you'll be surprised that you're not hearing Harry straight away. Harry's having a fantastic time at a music festival, so enjoy yourself, Harry, and I'll look after your Facebook page while you're away. The first post is from Autistic Revolution. Now, Autistic Revolution is someone we follow here on Autistic Radio. They have an online publication which celebrates the diversity of creativity amongst autistic people, and also they advocate in a expensive way. Laura Henfield, Neurodivergent Nurse Consulting, quotes, "It's just hard to imagine how one small animal can bring so much joy for so many years to so many people. But Kirby managed to do just that. We are grateful that he was part of our family and that he had the ability to touch the lives of so many people near and far. We'd like to dedicate this new section to Kirby and to all of the fellow companion animals across the world who bring joy to autistic people even in the darkest times." Autistic Revolution has joined Substack, and we'll put the link in the program notes. So what they're telling us about and announcing is that there's department intros on Substack and a new thread on Substack to expand what Autistic Revolution is doing out there.
Animal companions are very important. Some are into it, some aren't. Some it's a lifetime thing, some it's a recent happening. Yeah. A lot of the autistic communities that I've been involved with have a pet section. There's a great fondness goes on there, sharing of photos and stuff. I'm trying to figure out what this one is promoting specifically. They're dedicating this new section and their online existence to this recently departed animal companion, so it's a good tribute. And they're on Substack, which is seemingly quite a active area, and also a place where you can promote yourself quite well and commercially.
Yeah, anything we can do to encourage platforms where autistic people get themselves heard and express themselves and build community. You know, that's got to be a good thing for everybody out there. You don't have to agree all the time with all of this scene that goes around autism. It can be a very fragmented, a very contentious scene, but that's the diversity of the population, and amongst it also can be really beautiful moments of companionship and finding kin amongst the community. So I see that Autistic Revolution is very much part of encouraging that, and if that's part of the Substack now, that's even better.
Also, it's fair to say that, you know, that these companions, these guides, these animals that we coexist with, it's a very good photograph here. And very often sometimes I've found my experience with an animal companion is that they almost speak for me. They are guiding me through life, teachers to a certain extent. And there is this thing, I think, in autism and in human psychology about using a third party to express yourself between you and the world, a conduit, a portal even for your expression. And this is great that they're using this animal experience to create a space for communication.
The Autistic Advocate. And this post has a lot of selfies with two people really enjoying themselves and celebrating 25 years together. An autistic love story. 25 years ago, Two young people met on a Greek island, spent only 16 hours together, and somehow they just know. 25 years later, those two young people have been married for 17 years, have 3 kids, and are working together side by side, day by day, to improve life outcomes for autistic people. In 25 years, so many memories have been made. There's been as many downs as ups, maybe a few more downs. But between the ups and downs, there's always been love, safety and trust between those two young people who are now approaching 50 years old. Who knows what the next 25 years will bring? This month, Michelle and I are celebrating our 25th anniversary. We were one of the holiday romances that worked. It isn't bad going, especially considering we are also one of the long-distance relationships that worked also too. As for the first 5 years of being together, we lived 300 miles apart and only saw each other when we could save up the train fares. I am the thinker, the consultant, the writer, the researcher, the collaborator, and the one who likes to hold people to account. Michelle does all the real work in the back office, our living room. She does all the marketing, the website, admin and finance. Honestly, if it weren't for Michelle, none of what I do would exist, where anyone could make use of it. And more deeply personally, if it weren't for Michelle, I wouldn't be alive to do any of this. Don't get me wrong, 25 years together has taken work and effort. It hasn't always been a plain sailing. But as I said above, we always had love, safety and trust. So we thought that it would be a good reason to share my work on autistic relationships, an autistic guide to healthy relationships. And we have a link in the program notes. There's also info on Dr. Amy Pearson's new research into online dating. Amy and I work together on the healthy relationships research, and it's great to see autistic relationships being explored more.
There's a lot to discuss here, isn't there? I've just seen online dating. That's a subject in itself. Yeah, it's a great wee story. That thing at the beginning where they said, we just know. I've had many occasions where I felt I just knew, and 2 years later it didn't work out. And then there's this thing of like distance relationships, which I've seen work for a lot of friends of mine. And it worked for me for a wee while, but then things take their turns. 25 years is quite an achievement.
Okay, I'll put my 2 pennyworth in, because I'm autistic, I'm 60 years old, and I'm married to an autistic woman with an autistic daughter. And the amount of autistic people in both sides of our family outnumber the non-autistic people. I first saw my wife when she was 12 years old, and fortunately I was also 12 years old. We were boyfriend and girlfriend at 15, and she eloped with me when she was 17. As 2 autistic people nowadays, we would be considered to be young, vulnerable adults, and the law has changed, and it would have been possible for us to be repatriated and taken back to the family homes from which we came. But then we had the freedom to make our own decisions, make our own lives, get back into education, start businesses and move on. We had the freedom to take our own decisions as 2 young autistic people. And we have had that relationship as very much as a codependent relationship. They often use the word codependent when they talk about people who are drug addicts, who kind of prop each other up in their addiction. But there is a positive version of codependent, and that means that people are so enmeshed and reliant on each other, but also that it works, that it's a positive thing for them both. And so my wedding anniversary is in decades, not just small numbers. And I'm guessing that the stereotype out there is that autistic people do not have the best opportunity to build relationships and have relationships. But there are so many of us out there, and I'm sure this poster is part of that, that can put the myth to that and make it possible for more autistic people in other settings to have the power to make their own decisions.
I'm thinking about these long-term relationships. They often involve raising families, a whole host of commitments beyond just partnering with someone in life for various reasons. And then there becomes, as you say, a codependency. There's a kind of a need to be with someone. That may be something you or others had before you entered a relationship, or it's something that evolved from just being with someone, that there is a need for that person and for that kind of relationship. My experience has been that things wane, possibly because the reasons that we were relating were not 100%. They were transient, maybe ephemeral, maybe even for the wrong reasons, and they never led to situations where you were then maybe raising a family or had certain commitments, property, whatever, mutual responsibilities, where, your options were then limited, as it were, to be in or out of a relationship. So most people decide to stay with a relationship. I think that's an achievement, to stay in a relationship that long, but I have no experience of it myself, so I'll leave it at that.
I had one girlfriend 42 years ago, 3 months of heaven, 3 months of hell, and we worked at the same place, boss's son, and then they were constantly backstabbing and bullying me. I never really met anyone after that. It's a strange, especially when you're with someone and you're open and you tell them everything, and then a short time after that, they're basically using that information against you. It was not a great time. How I managed to keep going for 3 years in the same place working there was, I think, if I was back to that situation now, the first time they started backstabbing me and making slanderous comments, I think I would have just quit and walked away. It took me 3 years to quit.
So an awful lot of the rest of the post is to encourage people to take part in the online learning platform, the autisticadvocate.com online learning platform. Part of it is about having a discount of 25% off their normal charges. I'm going to read a bit from the paragraph further down. None of what I do is about me. I learned very quickly that while my story is important, it is but one out of millions that collectively add up to something far more powerful. Far better, then, to step outside of myself and learn about narratives that affect us all uniquely. So to share a personal email has taken some fierce nudging from Michelle. What I do is about a collective us. A group of us diagnosed, self-identifying, and those who don't even know, collective and connected intersectional experiences across the facets of identity, disability, race, ethnicity, age, gender, sex and more. A vast array of people who deserve better than we are getting. It's about recognizing that we are invested in a civil rights movement for autistic people. That autistic experience is a valid and deeply misunderstood reality. Whether you are autistic or not, thank you for being with us. Here's to still being in each other's world for the next 25 years. I hope you all find love, safety and trust. Kieran and Michelle too.
Yeah, that word trust is really important.
All the links are in the program notes for the program, so you can make your own decision about whether the whole of the resource that's offered to you is for you. But also you can find Kieran's work in lots of different places because they're generous with their knowledge. Embrace autism. And it's a meme with autism and high intelligence, with a face that looks a tiny little bit like the poster boy for intelligence, Einstein. Intelligence in autistic people can be highly polarized, with both intellectual disability and giftedness being more prevalent than in the general public. That's reminding me of what we were speaking about at the 4x4 drop-in earlier. We had various people who were saying that their experience of schooling was that they actually did not come away with a very large number of official recognized qualifications, but that at other times their intelligence had been picked up by other people. And we also talked a little bit about hiding the results that we had if we took on online tests, or if we knew that we were more intelligent. There was comments from Nicola about tall poppy syndrome when she was growing up in where she was. The Embrace Autism post links to a web page. Intelligence, as a number of recent studies have found, a positive genetic correlation between autism genes and measures of mental ability. The research indicates that autism overlaps broadly with high intelligence. Evidence indicates that autism and high IQ share a diverse set of convergent correlations. Large brain size, fast brain growth, increased sensory and visual spatial abilities, enhanced synaptic functioning, increased attentional focus, high socioeconomic status, more deliberate decision making. So the article is pointing out that amongst the people with the autistic gene type and the autistic development, there's a group of people who are unusually gifted in some, quote, ways of measuring intelligence. An awful lot of people would worry about the word intelligence because intelligence can mean so many things. And part of our discussion earlier was about whether you can measure intelligence with IQ tests.
I have this issue where I see intelligence as an aspect of fitting in. And when we were speaking earlier, I always want to ask, did anyone find their passion during those times when you avoided exposure to academic and intellectual judgment in the institutions? You know, when you hid your light under the bushel and just got on with things and survived and didn't do as well as you maybe thought you could have done or felt able to. Was there an alternate world or reality that existed for you where you discovered things like your interests and passions and explored them and developed them? Like being your own teacher to a certain extent, or finding teachers for yourself, human and non-human. So that comes back to this idea I have that I feel that intelligence is just this kind of normative aspect of fitting in. But then again, it could be that thing where you, at a very early age, you become sensitive to the idea of being called intelligent because it leads to problems.
I worry there's this perception that people with autism are either non-verbal, stimming in a corner and not communicating, or they're quirky, eccentric geniuses with numbers and science and problems, and there's nothing in the middle. And there's this thing about intelligence. When your car's not working very good, you take it to a person who knows all about cars. So that doesn't make you stupid, does it?
It's like passing an IQ test. It just shows that you're good at passing IQ tests. So showing the ability to know who can do something better than you, quicker than you, is smart. leaves you time for all your quirks. Now I'm thinking, these quirks, are they useful? Because the way society judges intelligence and people is usefulness to a certain extent, productivity. As my dad used to say when I got into things, can you make money from it, son?
To me, this study is, no doubt holds a kind of truth in it. There's a skew of polarization in comparison to a different population, and it's significant statistically. A difference in the curve of the population, of the data distribution, and that's been measured on the basis of an IQ test. And that's a version of some kind of way of inquiring into the way brains work. You're comparing at least something against some kind of standard. So there's some kind of validity in this stuff. But in the rest of the world, the concept of the status we give to somebody's intelligence or fitness to their situation, their role or their job, is often very subjective, very culturally worked out. Different people in society have entirely different evaluations of their own intelligence and the intelligence of people around them, with men thinking they're way more intelligent than they would be if they were scored, and women tending to suppress it. Different cultural groups are assumed to have different versions of brain function. It's so subjective, all of this, that we have to constantly remind ourselves this is a social science created by human beings in society.
I'm just concerned it's almost a sort of classism, setting up a class. I'm highly intelligent. I look down on him and him, that sort of thing. I don't know, because it's aptitudes and applications that are important.
I was going to say that in a culture that's built on materialism, measure is our God. And so the ability to calculate and discern and categorise things in order to use them productively is behind all this, I think.
I've been considering my own intelligence recently because I'm aging, and whilst I am quite sure as a young person there was a big number I was given once in some kind of test of the IQ, and I was definitely chosen to go to a school that was streamed at the time and given an opportunity because I was tested at some point when I was 11. But I've always doubted my intelligence because I certainly don't have any of these superpowery things. But now I'm looking at the way my brain works now and what I managed to achieve and comparing it as it's aging constantly to how it was a decade or 2 decades ago. And it's a strange experience to realize you're probably less intelligent than you were in that time. And how do you feel about your loss of intelligence? Do you feel less valid? Do you feel less than somebody else on the basis that your intelligence is, you can't manipulate things in your head as quickly as you used to, and your memory function is less reliable than you considered it to be? And the answer basically is no, you don't. So why should anybody at any part of this stage, as I decay, there are people that have been at that kind of cognizant stage from birth, the whole of their lives. And it's, for me, that's a way of relating to the vast difference in the humanity, especially with people who are discussed as having impairments, etc.
I think, related to what you said there, Jules, there's an aspect to intelligence that is learning what to do without, learning to give up, knowing too much. There's all these amazing words for intelligence, like knowledge, wisdom. There are various etymological roots and reasons why there are different words for thinking, but to think less is sometimes an advantage, and that usefulness comes in again. It's this whole ability to judge how to get things done. And of course, neurodivergent and autistic people have different relationships with getting things done, often not promoted by society and so difficult to express. But we're all trying to get some magic into our lives and produce and create to use our life and our experience well. And so when you reflect about aging and getting old, and I feel it's quite a relief sometimes to be thinking less about stuff.
The man is an incredible animal, that they could chip stones and make knives and out of them. And how did someone work out that you could use iron and bronze? And this whole thing that aliens built the pyramids, but human beings built the pyramids because they're clever and they work hard. People work things out.
I think that we were talking earlier about how, like, all the different things that you learn and you do and you explore when we were in pre-internet times compared to now. And I do think there's something just about, like, distraction-free life and how much more creative and curious your mind is. I know it's very obvious to say they didn't have the internet back then, but I do think that you would have tinkered. You would have got real little fascinations with the physical world.
So what you're saying, Nicola, is that we're in this world we live at the moment. We're distracted from our own ability to use our creativity. We are interrupted from being creative by the distractions in the world. If that's what you're saying, I think you're absolutely spot on. I think that's it. I remember boredom, and boredom created creativity. At the moment, people do not have any respite for things to just come into their heads.
I've been finding it easier not to be distracted by it. And I think it's as the kind of quality of the information just feels like it's degrading online. I remember when the internet first came along, just being like, wow, this is like such an infinite library. And it felt like it was easy to find quality information or blogs of somebody who was studying, I don't know, mushrooms or something. And like now I think there's just something about the internet that puts me off so much. And I do think it's a lot of like the content, there's just so much noise. It doesn't feel like an efficient way to kind of learn anymore to me. So I've been finding myself, this is the most internet-y time that I have in a week, and I value it. But generally, I'm finding my life going offline.
If you're using technology much, much less, Nicola, are you noticing differences in your way, your feeling, how you are?
Yeah, I think I am. It's felt similar to how it felt when I started to really accommodate my needs, to have time on my own, to prioritise that and not feel like I was meant to try and somehow socially keep up. It just feels like there's like less noise, and I'm not getting hooked in by like things that I actually really can't change, like the world events that I can't change that would otherwise just be completely like disturbing my nervous system so much that it would be like unproductive for me and those around me, I'd say. I just feel like a lot more connected to my surroundings.
I'm listening to Nicola. I think to some degree I've done some of what she's saying, and I need to do more of it. I still pick up a phone first thing in the morning and look at the news, and I still do read a newspaper for an hour probably a day. And I've reduced that greatly, but I need to reduce that more, I think, because I get this sense from what Nicola is saying. When she said that it's like that, it's another step change, and she compared it to the step change that she felt when she had taken control of things and started to accommodate herself more, and that spoke really eloquently to it. I think I'm probably not over the threshold of withdrawal from that kind of stuff to get the appreciation that she's got the level of. It's a threshold, isn't it? Autistic Radio is about us, it's for us, and it's from us. Autistic Radio is about you, it's for you, and it can be from you. We have every single Sunday drop-in, 4:44 PM every Sunday. That's not live, that's us getting together, us talking, community. Every Sunday, Harry leads a 5:55 PM, a discussion around the Facebook page that he creates. Involve yourself by suggesting what we should talk about next. Share it with Harry. And then, the bigger picture. Advocate. Use us. Speak to the world. Your project, your idea, your enthusiasm. We have a whole range of different programs that will fit what you want. As far as listening goes, there's some challenging stuff out there. Because amongst the identity, the entertainment, and the community, we also make serious programs with autism professionals, challenging their ideas and bringing what you say in other spaces to them. A lot of those are difficult listens, but it's a holistic gathering. It comes all together. Autistic Radio is very varied. We need a favour. To encourage us, we need you to share us. When you share us, you give autistic people power. When you share us, you make us impossible to ignore. When you repost on LinkedIn and Facebook and anywhere else, you're advocating for everybody in the autistic community. So pick the things that you're happy with and get them out there. So thank you from all of us.